Perdona. Ah. Vayam tunavit piyama utama shloka vikrame yak vakrinatvatam rasa jananam svadu svadu pade pade. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing his pastimes at every moment. Now, before I begin the reading with Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 23, I want to welcome those of you who are listening. I want to explain that last week we did indeed have a meeting, and we did indeed receive some instruction from Manunatha Maharaja, but unfortunately we forgot to record this session. So, but we will be having a session once a month, approximately once a month, and it will depend on us submitting our questions to make for an interesting class. So, in the meantime, I will begin with text 23. Yogeshvaranam Gatim Ahur Antar Bahish Trilokya Pavanantar Atmanam Na Karmabis Tam Gatim Apnuvanti Vidya Tapo Yoga Samadhi Bhajam. The translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers, or the gross materialists, can never move in such an unrestricted manner. So we will go on and read the purport.
Yamuna, I'm
Yes.
just going to go tell the people in the next room that I have a meeting going on in here to ask them to turn their music down a little bit, all right?
Okay, I will
Just
go
wanna-
ahead and read the purport.
Yeah, just go ahead.
You've read it before. The materialistic scientists' endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicles is only a futile attempt. One can, however, reach heavenly planets by virtuous activities, but one can never expect to go beyond Svarga or Janaloka by such mechanical or materialistic activities, either gross or subtle. The transcendentalists, who have nothing to do with the gross material body, can move anywhere within or beyond the material worlds. Within the material worlds, they move in the planetary systems of the Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satya Loka. And beyond the material worlds, they can move in the Vaikunthas as unrestricted spacemen. Narada Muni is one of the examples of such spacemen, and Durvasa Muni is one of such mystics. By the strength of devotional service, austerities, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can move like Narada Muni or Durvasa Muni. It is said that Durvasa Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and part of spiritual space within 1 year only. The speed of the transcendentalists can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialists. Okay, so going back and rereading the text. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers, or the gross materialists, can never move in such an unrestricted manner. Okay, I think that we can see here a clear difference between what is a transcendentalist, something that we are all striving to be, and what is a gross materialist. Because a materialist can only think in terms of things in this world that he can see. And he expects everything to be proven by science, whether the science is an honest science or a science that has been somehow manipulated before we have received it. He expects all the answers to be there in the science, whereas the transcendentalists realize that there is a whole realm that the materialists cannot even access until they wake up and realize that this transcendental realm exists, and do the practices and that lead to accessing this spiritual realm, the practices of devotional service, austerities, the transcendental knowledge. This will make a movement of the alma in the spiritual realm possible, you know, because once we realize that this realm exists and we practice these austerities and services, devotional services, we'll see that we can move around in different planets, heavenly planets, which the materialist cannot even cannot understand. Lavanga, would you like to add something, please, Mother Lavanga?
Yes. Just one moment here. This is just what I was thinking about first reading this report. It reminded me of Prabhupada's book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. I'm not sure if you read this before, but one of the things, one of the points that he makes in that book is similar to what he says in the first sentence of this report. The materialistic scientists' endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicles is only a fruit of attempt. One can, however, reach the heavenly planets by virtuous activities, but one can never go beyond Svargaloka or Janaloka by such mechanical or materialistic activities, either gross or subtle. So Prabhupada makes a similar point in that book, and he's also, like, in that book, he's explaining how by these mystic activities you can easily go to other planets. And most people, when they see that book, they're thinking oh, I'm gonna get this book and I'm gonna figure out how to do intergalactic travel. And then they're realizing, okay, actually it's gonna be much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But just the point that it's very true. Now we see that not so much NASA, but I think that one guy, Elon Musk, he has his own space program, and he's attempting to go to other planets. And he has, apparently, I saw a whole biography of him. I don't recommend it. I watched it, so you don't have to. But basically, he's thinking, okay, we can go colonize other planets, and he's spending billions of dollars for these attempts. But see, the thing is, even if you can go to such other planets, um, it's not just a matter of going there physically, but you have to be able to have the consciousness and the body to be able to access it. Like it's described in Interest Planet, how like the doors are made of gold and the streets are very beautiful, and the heavenly damsels are flying by on their airplanes and they're always singing these beautiful songs. So there's these attempts to go to these places, but um, I learned from the Bhagavatam from the eighth canto yesterday that we there has to be the qualification to go there. It's not just a matter of like, okay, I've physically gone there, now I can like master over this place. But there has to be this like I said before, the consciousness. So Prabhupada made this point about the moon as well. He would say they didn't really go to the moon. So devotees had thought about, well, what does that actually mean? Well, yeah, maybe you can go to like some place in space, but you got, unless you have like the body to survive on the moon planet, you're not really going to be able to actually fully experience it. So in one sense, you didn't go. So I think it's this Bhagavatam. I just always think that these sections are really cool because it challenges our belief about like the universe and how it's structured and everything like that. So, and let's see here.
Welcome, Yamuna. Welcome, Govinda. Yamuna, I'm speaking to myself. Welcome, Govinda. You know that we're on text 2223, and we've just read, and two of us have discussed it. I have. Um, are you? Would you have you looked at it? Would you like to say something about it also?
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for starting the call. Well, as far as, I mean, I can just kind of go based off what Mata Lavanga was saying with challenging our belief in like the universe and all that. Where I was hearing a class by Sadhuputta Prabhu. He's Richard L. Thompson. He was like a co-founder of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, which was the whole purpose behind it is like I guess presenting Krishna consciousness in like a scientific way to like a scientific audience. And so he was always like he's a doctor, like PhD, and so very much in that academic side of it and presenting Krishna consciousness like in this academic setting. And I just heard a lecture from him the other day. It was called like Fantastic Stories, where he's talking about fantastic stories in the Bhagavatam. But he prefaces the whole class giving examples of modern beliefs. Of He talks about how that there's a there's a there's a belief that someone saw Australia from Alaska. He's like, can you believe that? Can you believe that someone saw Australia from Alaska? and and then he gave a few examples, and he was like, and also there's this theory that the whole universe was created from a single dot, and in a fraction of a second, this dot exploded, and everything came to be, and the whole universe, as we know, exists, and it's all based on this one little point, and from there, everything came to be. And there's also another understanding that our great 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 grandfather was a monkey, was a gorilla. Can you believe that? So he was basically like presenting all these scientific theories, like theories that we have that are actually that many people believe, but that if you kind of just spread it out, it actually sounds kind of fantastic, like fantastical, and you're thinking like the Big Bang Theory and the whole uh, and what else? Yeah, he gave a few examples, but basically he was using that to show how we already, in one sense, have this idea or beliefs of things that are a little bit fantastic, that are a little bit kind of out there. And so, when we read the Bhagavatam and we start actually hearing the truth, the actual reality of things, it can help us understanding that, yeah, I mean, Bhagavatam has like crazy, like wild stories of things that like it could be hard to believe. But there's already things that we've believed or still believe that we can say is hard to believe. So I thought that yeah, that his class or his introduction was very instructive for um I guess having more faith or just more connection with the Bhagavatam, because yeah, there are some wild things that we hear too. Like I think in the where is it the I think it was a Bhakti Center that they're going through the Bhagavatam, or I don't remember who exactly, but it was a class and they're talking about, oh no, it was the wisdom of the sages. Yeah. They're going over Govardhan. They're on like I think Canto 10, and they're talking about how I think it was in Srila Prabhupada's purport. He was talking about how in the Vedas it talks about how mountains were flying. Mountains had wings. And the mountains that we see on the planet are mountains that have lost their wings, and come down to the planet. So, and I think in the purport, Prabhupada doesn't give any kind of he doesn't elaborate more on that or anything. He just presents it as it is. This is what the Vedas say, and that's it. So yeah, it's just very nice reminder for me that sometimes we're gonna, especially as we're going into the second canto and reading more about the universe and how everything is functioning, that to keep an open mind and to just receive it and take it in, and then as questions come, then like having those questions there.
Um, do you guys mind if I make another point along with what you're saying, or would
Go
you
on.
like to move?
Go on,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because this what with what Govinda was saying, and then also I would like to throw in this part where it's talking about Narada Muni and it or Durrasa Muni, and it is said that Durrasa Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and part of spiritual space within only 1 year. The speed of the transcendentalist can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialist. And then also with what Govinda was saying about mountains having wings, and somebody might hear about Narada Muni traveling and Narada Muni, Durrasa Muni being able to go all over the universe and mountains having wings and thinking, oh, this can never be possible. But I heard a class by Ridananda Maharaj on this, and he was saying that I'm trying to think of the exact words, but people say that this can't be possible, but there's no evidence that the material laws that exist now, like were the way things have always existed, were always the laws of nature, throughout time, that the material laws that we have now, they were never any different. And he said there's also no evidence of that at all. So no one can prove that the way things are now are the way they've always been. So he said, that's a good response when somebody comes at you and says, oh, this type of things aren't possible. It was a lecture that he was giving to college students that were asking him, how do we, when somebody asks us about these, like, fascinating parts about the Bhagavatam, about mountains having wings or whatever, like, what should we say? And he was saying that that's a point that you could bring up. So.
Okay, that's
Yes,
very
if you
nice.
allow me to add something too, that nowadays it's become even harder for science to be proven because there's so much manipulation by artificial intelligence of what we see and what we read, and we don't even know what data to believe anymore.
Mhm.
These things, whereas the spiritual or the transcendental knowledge remains the same for always. There's so much deception. That's one of the characteristics of material nature, is a deception and not being perfect, and and now even more so, that the data that they do present, we don't can't even trust the source anymore because we are being manipulated. But people are now realizing how much we are manipulated by the media's the how do you say that in English, the
Like
communication.
propaganda.
Yes, in the news and in the social media,
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah, that's one thing that I kind of hold on to, is that as far as material science and theories and all that, one nice um one nice way of understanding the difference between material science and spiritual science is that the material science is constantly having to change, and these theories are, one theory is coming up and then another, and then it's like, oh, that theory is not right anymore. We actually have done more research, and like now this is what the truth is. And Prabhupada highlights this, how the scientists are constantly having to change and edit this or fix that. And as far as spiritual science goes, there's no change. The Bhagavatam is the Bhagavatam. It's the same Bhagavatam. The Bhagavad Gita is the same Bhagavad Gita. And so there's nothing that changes. And so that in and of itself is proof of the reality of spiritual science, and how if it's not changing, then that means you must be touching upon the truth if it doesn't have to change or adapt to new research or new anything. It's no, you continue following it as it is. And then one last point too is on the flip side of things, that if we kind of approach things that we can't fully grasp, and if we don't take the word of like sadhu, guru, and shastra, then there are like we have a very recent example of what can happen in the with the story of I think it was Purushottama Prabhu. It was the disciple of Srila Prabhupada who was challenging the moon landing. Who we were reading in the Servant of the Servant from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was highlighting this story where he said he was Purushottam. I feel like his name is Purushottama, and I don't want to keep saying Purushottama, and that's not his name. But
It is. It is.
oh, it is? Okay. So he was highlighting how Purushottama Prabhu, he did his service very nicely to Prabhupada. He was Prabhupada's personal servant for some time, like a year or 2 years, and just doing his service very maynicely in a humble manner, and Prabhupada really much appreciated Purushottama's service. But then Tamal Krishna Maharaj talked about this like point where there came a time where Prabhupada was speaking about the moon landing and how we didn't land on the moon. Just I think how it was brought up in our class today. But Purushottama Prabhu couldn't rationalize that. In his mind, he saw it, like he saw it on the television or something like that, and so he was fully convinced that we had gone to the moon. And so when Prabhupada brought up that no, we actually hadn't gone to the moon, and he was very strong on that point, Prabhupada was very strong, it really challenged that in Purushottama. And Maharaj was explaining how Purushottama Prabhu, he never kind of vocalized these doubts or really brought them up or asked Prabhupada about them or anything. He just kind of sat with them, and this doubt just kind of festered into the point where after I think it was a London Rath Yatra or something, he left. He just wrote Prabhupada a letter and said that he's leaving. He left the whole movement just based on this not accepting something that not accepting the word of Guru. And so when if that doubt is there, these doubts on like Shastra, not accepting the word of the Bhagavatam, we can. It's not like we're not allowed to not accept things. We're supposed to use our intelligence to try and understand, but we have to vocalize these doubts that we're having, or else it can fester. And when it festers, and it can really mess up our consciousness and really make us believe things that pull us away from Krishna consciousness. It's like Maya, Maya really finding our weak points, and she really knows how to press the buttons to get us doubting, to get us distancing ourselves. And so I just want to highlight that it's okay to have doubts, it's okay to have these reservations, but we have to find a platform to speak on them to the proper authority, to a guru, to a senior devotee we trust. So especially as we're touching upon more and more fascinating aspects of the Bhagavatam.
Yes, that's a good point. I know, like in my own Krishna consciousness, I've had certain doubts about things just looking over, like in my time of spiritual life, and some of these doubts really disturbed me. And if I hadn't gone to a senior devotee about them, in some cases I went to 2 or 3 people, and if I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would still be practicing, because I would have just, I had a certain way of understanding it that I needed to look at it in a different context, and they were able to kind of like enlighten me and kind of like remove that doubt. Because sometimes when things are said in Shastra, or when things are said in Prabhupada's conversations, we don't really know like the whole story of like, okay, like what was going on at that time, or we could just be looking at it from one perspective. But it really is helpful to go to people that you trust, or go to senior devotees, and ask them, be honest with them and tell them about your doubts. And if one person gives you an answer and you're not totally satisfied with it, ask somebody else, but yeah, don't just give up, and don't just let your doubts fester, because they won't go away. They'll just get louder and louder as time goes by. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing your personal experience. It's really powerful. That's like the one of the strongest evidence, I guess, we can have for making the right choice is like if we personally do that choice and we feel like, wow, I was really enlightened and really helped by seeking out help and asking questions, and it's like further um encouraging us to continue doing that and asking questions. And yeah, yeah, especially asking questions to the right person though, the right, yeah, that's really important.
And one humbling point I think about the story that you told about Purushottam is that when he did leave, 'cause at least I remember reading this story in Lilamrita, and Prabhupada said after he left, he said, I would understand if he couldn't believe because I said it, but the Vedas say the moon is farther than the sun. So like Prabhupada was thinking, well, how could he not accept the Vedas? Or like,
Mm,
it was kind of just sweet the way Prabhupada said it. He was like, like, yeah, I can understand if he wouldn't believe me just because it was my opinion, but it's the it's the Vedas. So
yeah.
I always thought that was a really sweet part. And actually, Prabhupada gave him the money to leave, and at least according to Leela Amrita,
Mm,
and he told Prabhupada, well, I don't have any money to give you, and Prabhupada said, that's okay, you can pay me back later.
mm.
So yeah.
That's very sweet. Yeah, I don't remember that part where Prabhupada was like, he was like, I didn't, if it was me saying it, then it's okay. I would understand. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, it's in the Leela Amrita. I think it might be in the first volume, or it's in the night, because it happened in the 1960s, so it's very very early on. So if you
Oh,
read that section, then it's there.
mm. Yeah, it's very humble. Just showing Prabhupada's purity. That's so nice.
All very interesting. But I'm going to suggest that with 20 minutes left, maybe we can do one more verse. I will have to leave right at 10:30 because I have a rehearsal afterwards.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so
Yeah.
if you would like to go on, Lavanga, to read text 24, that would
All
be.
right, let's see if I can do this. Okay. Text 24. Vaishvarnaramyati vihasya gataha shushumnaya brahma patina shochisha vidutakalikota harer udatsat prayati chakram nirpashai shumaram. O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Sumna to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, he first goes to Vaishvarna, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations. And thereafter, he still goes higher to the circle of Sisumara to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Oh, okay. Purport. The pole star of the universe and the circle thereof is called Sumara circle. And therein the local residential planet of the personality of Godhead, Shirodakashayi Vishnu, is situated. Before reaching there, the mystic passes over the Milky Way to reach Brahmaloka, and while going there, he reaches Vaishvarnya Loka, where the demigod controls fire. On Vaishvarna Loka, the yogi becomes completely cleansed of all dirty sins acquired while in contact with the material world. In the Milky Way, the Milky Way in the sky is indicated herein as the way leading to Brahmaloka, the highest planet of the universe. So this purport, I'm trying to, as I was reading it, like I was trying to get a mental image of all this in my head. It actually, it brings a couple questions more than realizations for me. But I'm wondering, when Prabhupada here says Milky Way, is he talking about what we know as the Milky Way in the sky? Or is this the Milky Way that we can see? And
The ocean of milk, right?
or yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, because I know Shirodakashayi Vishnu, he's on the ocean of milk from my understanding. And then also I was wondering, does this happen to everybody, like bhakti yogis? Like, because we also hear with like devotees, we hear about the Vaikuntha airplanes coming down and taking one to Vaikuntha. So is this only for certain paths of yoga? Because what it's seeming here is that this yogi, you know, it ultimately he goes, and he to where is it? It passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Susumna to reach the highest planet Brahmaloka. He first goes to Vaishvarna, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations. And thereafter, he still goes higher to the circle of Sumara to relate with Hari, the personality of Godhead. So, okay, so he goes to this planet of fire and gets completely cleansed of all sins. And then it says he goes to relate with Lord Hari. So, also, yeah, what does it mean by relating with Lord Hari? Like, is he going back to Godhead, or is he, you know? So, I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot of realization on this purport because I have actually more questions. I need to like write this down. Just thinking about it,
Well,
deeply.
good. We can engage Guru Maharaja in some of your questions here,
Yeah, because
pertaining to our studies, of course.
I'm just wondering, how does this relate to like people like and maybe I need to go and read the chapter again because I know it's been a while since we've had this class. So like, because I was thinking about like with Dhruva Maharaj, the Vaikuntha airplanes came down and he just went back to Vaikuntha. I think also with Ajamil. So is that only for like the pure devotees who are completely pure? And this is a way for like a mystic yogi to get completely purified before going back to Godhead? Or does the mystic yogi just go, does he have another type of liberation when it says he's going to relate with Lord Hari? Like he's just going to reside on the same planet as the Lord, which is one of the types of liberations. Anyway, that I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add to
Yeah,
our.
well, if you want to take it literally, it does say when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by so it's not just anybody, it's such a mystic, So
Yeah,
I don't know if that, how to qualify what is such a mystic, but, you know, what was described, I guess, in the previous verse, which is a transcendentalist, basically.
right.
Yeah. Eh, Go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, yeah, I don't know for certain either. I'm just trying to use my own mind or intelligence, I guess, to try to figure things out. If I mean, the whole theme of the chapter has been Shukadev Goswami speaking about like a yogi and all these different yogic processes. So I would think that he's still talking about a yogi who's attaining this higher realm through the mechanical process of like yoga. And so this is like what that kind of transcendentalist has to go through. But I'm not sure. I mean, there is isn't there's a what is it called? Uh what yeah, what is that one called with Gopa Kumara?
Goodbye. That is Brihat Bhagavad Samrita.
There you go. Yeah, I haven't read it, so I don't know, but I would think, but at least I know that it's highlight it like kind of maps out Gopa Kumara's whole journey from like material world back to spiritual world. So I'm wondering if that text has any details about like what he goes through, like if he has to go through these planets because he's a devotee. So it's like, did he have to go through these planets and then get back to Krishna, or did he just go straight back to Krishna? That I'm wondering if that, yeah, if that book has any details on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't read it either.
Hmm. Well, one thing that he brings up though, uh, is something that came up with there's a video of Lokanath Maharaj with one of a disciple of his that she's in hospice, I think. It was I think it was fairly recent, like maybe a couple months ago. But she's in hospice and she's basically preparations to leave her body. And then Maharaj comes to pay her a visit. And so she's in the hospital bed. You can just see her body completely deteriorated. She's so skinny, like everything, like it shows like everything. And she's got like Prabhupada pictures and like the Prabhupada japa going and everything. And, basically surrounded by all the things that you would think, at the time of death to have around you. And Maharaj comes and he's just kind of speaking to her and she's just there and she's I think at one point he brings up the medicine. Like he's like, are you taking any, is she getting, 'cause she has like other family and friends there and he's asking, is she taking any medicine? Is she having any medicine from the doctor? And then the devotee who's like leaving her body, she says, I don't want any medicine. Like I don't want to take any. Like, I just want it natural. And it kind of like it's like that question. It's like Maharaj was kind of pointing to something. At least that's what like it was feeling like in the video that Maharaj was kind of pointing to something that he was pointing to some still kind of like a attachment or something there that's so strong that even at this Mataji that even at that point when she's like preparing to like leave and we would think we would have this idea that oh when I leave the body I just want to go back to Krishna, like I just want to go to Krishna. But to have that real understanding or to have that or to be really fixed in that kind of consciousness that you really do want to be back with Krishna and you want to and you're ready to leave everything behind. I think in the video was really highlighting that. It was like this one simple question about medicine and then highlighting how she wanted like natural and she didn't want this. And it kind of like stirred something in her. And I could really you could really see it, like it really stirred something. It really poked at something. She talked about how she was seeing Radha and Krishna. How like I don't know if like in her mind or whatever, but she was seeing Radha and Krishna and she was chanting and all that. And Maharaj was like, "Good, good." He said, "Go, go with them. Go with Radha and Krishna." But she wasn't having that kind of like enthusiasm to go. She wasn't having like this like, yes, I want to be with them. It was like oh, I see them. I see Radha and Krishna. They're there. But like this very much heart desire to go and be back with Krishna. It didn't really seem so present. And so it was
Oh,
really, yeah. And so it was really like, I guess kind of shaking my own understanding and conception of this and how to have like a relationship with Krishna, to really be relating with him and really want to be back with him is such a deep level where you really want to go back because we can read the Bhagavatam, we can have this understanding, even I have it. It's like, oh, I just want love of Godhead, I just want this, but to like really have it is on a whole another level. And so I guess it makes sense that if someone who hasn't really been practicing bhakti, which the whole process of bhakti is establishing a relationship with Krishna. And if you haven't done that, and if the practice you've been doing has been more like mechanical breathing processes, postures, then it makes sense that maybe you need to go through some other level of purification before you can, like it says in the verse where it says to relate with Lord Hari. To relate, it's like very much emphasized here. uh I'm wondering, if I was looking for it to see if it was in the Sanskrit, but I don't see it. I just see it says reach, see reach, but I don't see any Sanskrit words that connect directly with relating. Um, but anyways, so that made me think of that. Yeah, it made me think of that. How we can be practicing, even practicing bhakti yoga, they can still come about these attachments that just like even at the time of death, like even when we're like preparing to leave the body, like these attachments can come up, and they still can kind of make us not want to go. We can be seeing Radha and Krishna. We could be like completely seeing, they can be coming and showing up for us, and still we're like, oh, we're not. I'm just not ready yet. I'm just not yet. Like something. And so this verse made me think of that.
Yeah, it's become
Yeah.
harder and harder for one to naturally leave their body, to follow any of these precepts and naturally leave their body, because there's intervention all along the way, and that intervention disrupts our spiritual vibrations. It's all of the medicines that we take and all the machines that you get put onto, and it's really a rare thing, to be able to have such a peaceful death. And remember one thing, you say that that person was lacking a bit in enthusiasm, but remember, we should neither be overly happy nor overly sad about circumstances. We have to accept them in an equanimous manner. Is that how you say it in English? Because
I think
we
so.
I use that in Spanish more than English, but yes. So it's become more and more difficult to have the ideal death, and
Hmm.
yeah, especially the relatives also want to hold on very tightly to the person who is ready to move on. I mean, within reason. There's certain points where you do things to preserve your life because it's easy enough or convenient enough. But when it becomes like you're at that last moment, that's a very difficult decision for many people to make, whether to keep trying to sustain life or just to accept it and go back to Godhead, surround themselves with the spiritual things that make their exit as pleasant as possible, even if it's not a great big joyous, like we're going to get up and sing and dance about it. But still, this particular person was ready to move on. She was saying Radha and Krishna.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, what both of you were saying are it made me think too. Just thinking further along this verse that one has to reach a certain stage before they can associate with the personality of Godhead. So this yogi here, he's going through the planet of fire, but also we see like even with Lakshmi Devi when she wanted to join the gopis, she did all these she even had to do like certain austerities to get to to try to get the rasa to be able to do this. And in the end, like she couldn't leave her rasa. She couldn't do it. So because they like, oh yeah, you gotta go look over Vrindavan, and you gotta start being like a cowherd girl. You gotta milk cows, and be in the dust, and Lakshmi's used to living kind of in opulence.
Hmm.
So and, in the end, at least from what I hear about the pastime, she didn't go. But I mean, there could be another version where she went. I'm not sure. But anyway, the main point that I'm trying to make is that even within like the certain rasas, there has to be a certain level of mood or qualification to get there. So in the same sense, within the material world, even just to associate with the personality of Godhead, one has to become completely cleansed of all like sinful activities, and one actually has to have the desire to go. So often we would hear Prabhupada say, like, if you have, desire to stay in the material world, you're going to stay in the material world. You have to have all desire to go back to Godhead. So I think that's one thing I can take away from this verse, a realization, is that the mystic, he has to go through, even though he's been doing this practice in the material world. We've been reading about all these postures and things like that the mystic's been doing, his meditation. But even then, he still has to go through this process where he has to get completely cleansed. So we can see that it's not necessarily an easy process.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I never heard the pastime with Lakshmi. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be in Brihat Bhagavad Samhita. I've heard it quoted in a few classes, but I'm thinking it's in Brihat Bhagavad Samhita.
Hmm. Yeah, there's so much like an ocean of pastimes that we have. We don't even like, at least I don't even know about, that are so sweet and can really uh, illuminate like understandings of things that I can have questions about. So I just have to keep hearing and keep coming to the class so I can hear you because you have all the knowledge, you have all the pastimes. So,
Yes, this is so true. You've been through this before, so you have so much more to add, and we're so grateful to have you with us, Lavanga.
Oh,
And it's always so nice to see you too, Govinda, my spiritual brother. And I do believe that next week it will be your turn to lead, if we're going in the order, me and then you and then Lavanga. So, are you up for it next week?
yeah, yeah,
Yes. Okay. Well, I really do need to go.
yeah.
So I want
uh,
to thank all of you and those of you who are listening as well. Please remain interested and please send questions to Manunatha Maharaja, who has promised to meet with us once a month to respond to questions and things that we wish to talk to him about. But we, of course, must submit those things in order for him to agree to a date.
oh
Hmm.
yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Mananatha Maharaja, Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Jai. Jai.
Srila
Oh,
Prabhupada,
oh, well,
Ki
I guess
Jai.
very quickly though, it's also Guru Maharaj's Vyas Puja Sunday. They're gonna do it on Sunday. Oh no, no, whoops.
Yes, on
Okay.
Sunday,
Yeah, I'm getting ahead
Sunday,
of myself.
that's, yeah,
I think it's next
we're gonna
weekend.
connect on Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I think
But
that's
I don't know if that's if that's been officially announced yet by the devotees in Santo Domingo, but we will, I will connect, you will connect. We'll see you then.
okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.